In 1985, the Screen Actors Guild established a separate nonprofit organization to assist, educate, and inspire actors. Working behind the scenes, thanks to grants and donations, and without support from SAG member dues, the Screen Actors Guild Foundation enriches countless lives. They provide financial assistance to union members seeking academic grants, health care, and when times get tough, help with rent and other basic needs. The Foundation's commitment to literacy and social causes reach millions of children every month. And in the state-of-the-art Actors Center, career-focused programs are videotaped, streamed, and archived for generations to come. With your support, this work is only the beginning.
Happy anniversary to SAG Foundation.
Hi, I'm SAG Foundation President and SAG National Board Member, JoBeth Williams.
And I'm SAG Secretary-Treasurer Amy Aquino, along with SAG President Ken Howard.
It's our pleasure to extend a warm online welcome to the SAG membership joining us for this seminar. We're excited to bring you valuable business of acting knowledge in this LifeRaft live stream event.
And remember, you're a part of this event. Anytime during the live program, you can email your questions to the moderator at liferaft@sagfoundation.org or tweet your questions using the hashtag LRLS. And let us know your first name and your city, too.
When you have finished viewing this LifeRaft event, please make sure to fill out the anonymous online survey on the viewing page.
Your feedback is crucial to the growth of this innovative program.
Before we dive in, it's important to note that the SAG Foundation is a non-profit organization funded solely by grants and donations, not by guild membership dues.
So, if you would like to help support the Foundation's dedication to assisting, educating, and inspiring actors, go to the SAG Foundation website and click on the pink Donate Now button on the right-hand side of the page to make a tax-deductible gift.
Now, sit back, relax, and take notes.
And in case you miss anything, each live stream seminar will be archived in the SAG Foundation Video Gallery.
Thanks for joining us. The SAG Foundation
and the Screen Actors Guild are moving you full stream ahead.
With the Screen Actors Guild Foundation LifeRaft program. I'd like to join welcome our online audience joining us tonight. A couple quick things and we'll get going here. I'd like to first of all thank the Screen Actors Guild Foundation and the Screen Actors Guild Union for this full stream ahead partnership that we have done every Tuesday night until today, April 27th. So this concludes this particular series of the full stream ahead LifeRaft program. So thanks to SAG and the SAG Foundation for that wonderful partnership. Although we love our guests that we have tonight, we just want you to know that anything they say tonight doesn't necessarily mean an endorsement on the part of the Screen Actors Guild or the SAG Foundation. Anything of importance to you, we invite you to seek out your own counsel and make your decision yourself. Having said that, so we also have a little special raffle tonight for our online viewers. We have 2 subscriptions to CastingAbout.com for 6 months. To 2 randomly picked online viewers who email in their questions tonight, and we'll announce those at the end of the evening. So make sure to send in all your wonderful questions. Okay, so let's get going tonight. I'd like to introduce our moderator tonight, Carrie Wiita. Carrie was most recently cast as a series regular on the NBC sitcom pilot The Strip. Come on out, Carrie. Welcome. Carrie has, Carrie has tons of experience and knowledge in the acting industry here in Los Angeles, and has been acting for quite a while and went to UCLA. So welcome, Carrie. Thanks for coming. Yeah. Our next panelist is Blair Hickey, who is also an actor and co-founder of CastingAbout.com. Come on out, Blair. You can see Blair on Heroes, Medium, How I Met Your Mother. Thank you, Blair. And his partner in crime with Casting About, Brian Wold. Come on out, Brian. Brian's an internet and marketing specialist and co-founder of Casting About, and he can talk about the online presence and how to best market yourself online tonight. And we also have Tammy Lynn with Spotlight PR. And come on out, Tammy. Welcome. Tammy's the head publicist of Spotlight PR Company, which is a boutique public relation firm that offers a la carte services to actors and entertainment professionals. So there'll be some wonderful resources there until you can't afford that monthly retainer for the and she's going to help you get there. Also, we have Stephen Meade returning with us tonight, who's done a marketing LifeRaft with us many times. Please welcome Stephen Meade. Thank you so much, Stephen, for coming. Stephen is founder and CEO of BigBamboo LLC, and he's principal and founder of that company, which is basically a holding company and forms several other companies, and he markets and gets those companies up and running. He's going to talk to you about how to approach your career from a business perspective. Thank you all for coming, and I hand it over to Carrie Wiita.
Thanks, you guys. Well, first I'd like to start off just by having our guests say a little bit about what they do. So I'll start with Blair.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's great to be here. I'm an actor. I've been in LA for just about over 10 years or so. And it was actually my experience acting and dealing with some agencies that led to the founding of CastingAbout with my partner, Brian. I did an episode of Sex and the City in New York, and that sort of helped propel me to LA, where I took some meetings, I met with some agents, I signed with somebody and started doing the thing here in LA to try and increase my presence doing TV. And I had a little bit of success. I booked a few shows, and over time got signed by a bigger agency that kind of did the song and dance and said, welcome to the big time, and we're going to take care of you, and you've arrived, and you just sit back and relax and let us do our thing. And so I did, and a year went by, and not much happened. Actually, I went out 7 times. I got called back on all 7. I booked one, and then 2 weeks before Christmas, they cut the agency in half, and 45 of us got the boot. I went home and kind of went through all those phases of things you're supposed to go through. I moped, and I was angry, and then decided that I really needed to kind of start over because I'd done nothing for a year, and now, except for those 7 people I had met, I really didn't exist anymore to all the casting directors in town. So I rolled up my sleeves and started doing a lot of work. I'm kind of a research freak, so I started tracking casting directors. Who was casting what? Where were they? Where were the people I knew? What other jobs had they moved on to? It was kind of a full-time gig, but I started developing this database. And over time, I kept this thing accurate so that I knew where anybody was pretty much on any given day. And it was other actors, friends of mine, people in acting class who said, hey, you've got some information here we could use. And a buddy of mine in class said, actually, I've called you twice myself this week so far, and you've got some information, you should do something with it. And so I started looking into ways to take this database and turn it into what became CastingAbout with Brian, which was a way to take all of that information, put it online, make it accurate, make it usable, update it every day. And then what turned out to be this little sort of side project kind of grew. Today we've actually partnered with Breakdown Services. We now have a very large research staff, both in LA and New York. We've opened up a second office there, and things are kind of growing, so that's been a lot of fun.
Excellent, thank you. And Brian, did you want to add some more about what you specifically do at CastingAbout? Or
I will do a little bit of everything.
Please do.
My story ends with CastingAbout, but I was actually working in public relations, corporate public relations for a large city government during the early days of the internet. And my boss wandered into my office one day and said, I don't know what this whole information superhighway thing is, but figure it out. Don't spend very much time on it. It's probably a fad. And that's how I got started doing internet work, and have for the last, I don't know how many that would be now, 18 years or something, been an internet specialist, specializing in front-end website usability, making websites easy to use, making information easy to find, taking a lot of complex information, putting it together in ways that that helps to make sense for things. So when Blair and when Blair came to me, we were actually sitting at Sharky's in Burbank having a burritos, and he said, as an actor, there's this thing that drives me nuts because people are constantly moving around, the information is constantly changing. I buy the guidebooks, they're always out of date. I get the packs of mailing labels, I throw half of them away, and I don't know who I'm sending things to. Maybe there's a way that the internet can put this information out in a better way. And so we decided that he had expertise in one area and I had expertise in another area, and we've been working on it ever since. They say that going into business with a friend of yours is a good way to ruin a friendship, and we've actually, so far, haven't killed each other yet. But we're excited to be here today, and I'm certainly able to talk about actor marketing, both from an internet perspective in terms of what kinds of things are available, and also from the CastingAbout perspective and the things that the types of information we provide.
Great, thank you so much. I have a lot of questions about that. So next, Tammy, do you want to give us a little bit?
Hi, everybody. I am Tammy Lynn, and I grew up an actor. I'm from here, LA, so I started out young in commercials. And years after college, I went to New York and was acting there, but also had to get a day job. And I landed at a corporate PR firm. And from there, I fell in love with that. And when I moved back here to Los Angeles, I kept acting and meeting actors and hearing what they needed, and kept thinking to myself, wow, I have a lot of knowledge about PR and how that can, from the corporate world, wonder how that crosses over into entertainment. So a couple years ago, I decided to work with a few of my friends as they booked a guest star or a small role in a feature film. And we put together some press releases, and it started to work. And it was very simple, and it was very effective. And that's where I decided, you know, this is something that I don't think is out there, because most people, when you think of a publicist, it is a 3-month commitment, and it is a boatload of cash. And I decided, rather than doing that for the working actor, such as probably a lot of you can't afford that, and you don't really need a full-service publicist. You need somebody to help you with what you've got going now, whether that's a web series or a supporting role or maybe a recurring role in something, but you don't necessarily need to walk the carpet and do the party scene, because nobody's going to really know who you are anyway. So yes, you can take the photos, but where are they going to go? Nobody's going to use them, I'm sorry to say. So what I try to do is help to build buzz from a ground level of actually reaching out to the media, aside from the photos and the parties, but reaching out to get blurbs, to get buzz, to get them to understand who you are, to know your name, to want to do an interview with you, whether it's an online outlet or a print outlet. Online is huge, by the way. Talking about internet. It's a huge resource, and is the fastest growing in PR, in marketing, and I think in general. So use that. And so a couple years ago, I actually formed Spotlight PR, and that's what I'm doing now.
Great. Thank you so much. Stephen.
I joke that I say I never had a job, but it's actually just because I'm unhireable. So my background is I've always started companies, and primarily what we do now is I come up with ideas for companies, and I recruit advisors to tell me all the reasons it won't work. So I sort of reverse engineer things, and I build companies around gaps that have never been done. But what I've really got an expertise in is networking, not around the internet side, which I know very well, but really one-on-one, how to get introduced to the exact person you want at any level of any company anywhere in the world through a credible introduction, which to me, one-on-one introductions are a lot more effective if you know how to do it. Part of it comes down to just knowing who to ask for and how to position yourself. And I do that within the companies I build, and then I do it for other people for free, just teaching some simple techniques. And that's some of what we'll cover tonight.
Thank you so much. Okay, so the first question I have kind of goes out to everybody. Tammy, I'd written this for you, but my question is, what if anything, does an actor need fundamentally to start with to start marketing? Is there a bare minimum of things that an actor needs to have, such as either representation, union status, or is it?
Well, related to the press, and if you book something, the things that you kind of need in order to go out to them with, I can speak to that. You have to have a bio, and you have to have one you love. And this is probably, I think, the biggest hurdle for actors. Most actors that I work with hate their bio, and that's a problem. What I tell people is that rather than just reciting all of your credits in your bio, make it a story. It's the story of who you are. And it doesn't have to be chronological. It should speak to where you've been and where you come from and how you got to where you are now. It can include some of those credits in there, like highlighting ones that you think really changed your career or moved you in a certain way or depict exactly who you are as an actor. Absolutely. But it should tell the media something they don't know from reading just your resume or looking at your pictures. It needs to tell the story, the other story. And remember, anything you put in that bio is fair game for them to ask about. So be comfortable with everything that you put in it or don't put it in. That's fine too. I think a website, I think you have to have a place for, media tends to want to see your photos if they don't know who you are. They want to maybe watch a demo reel if you've got a link or some sort of footage that they can view, because typically when you're working with me, you probably don't have clips available from the current project, but hopefully you'll have something that they can sort of view and watch so they get an idea of who you are and the types of characters you play. Photos, you got to have photos available that I can use, and if they're taken by a specific photographer, we can credit that photographer, but just make sure I know those kinds of things.
Out of curiosity, would you say that a bio, it sounds like you need tools, you need the photos, the website,
Yep.
things to sell. You were also saying a bio, now we were talking a little bit before about the type, your type, and how a bio seems to be a way to sell your type.
It is. Okay, what I was telling the group earlier backstage was often when I start working with somebody to craft a new bio, I send them a list of questions. And it's sort of basic so I get a feel for who you are, because I think the biggest problem too is you may not realize what your story is because you're too close to it. So often I see it right away. I can read it and say, oh, well, this happened to you, and this happened to you, and this happened to you, and these are the types of roles you play. Hello, it all is a corresponding right here, A to B, right? But when I ask an actor, tell me the types of roles that you play. What do you usually get cast in? What do you like to do? What do you see yourself as? Half of the time I hear I'm a chameleon. And while I know you all are fabulous and can probably do drama and comedy and edgy and indie and commercial and whatever, that is so broad and general. It doesn't help me, it doesn't help you, and it doesn't help the media or casting people or anybody else figure out how to cast you or how to market you or what to do with you. So think more specifically on the roles that you play and what you see yourself as. There's probably a through line, even if they seem worlds apart.
So for everyone now, would you say that it's fair to say that that is maybe the starting point for any marketing strategy, is to know what you're selling? And that's, maybe Stephen, if you want to speak to that, is that it sounds like to start, before you can even set out a strategy, to determine what exactly it is that you're trying to sell.
No.
No? Tell me. Then
Well,
before you go to set out a...
But the answer is yes and no. I agree with this, but dealing with the entertainment industry is interesting, because when you ask somebody what they do, it's, oh, I'm an actor, I'm a director, I'm a producer, I'm the... And you there's a tendency to want to say you do all of these things, right? And my comment is there's two things. One, figure out what you really want to be. You know, if somebody's standing here and saying 10 years from now, what do you want your career to be like? Is it, I want to be known for dramatic series or comedy? And if it's comedy, is it television? Or figure out 10 years from now what you really, really, really want to be, and then start crafting your message around that. However, there's a technique I use called deflect, defer, and disclose, which when somebody asks me what I do, I never answer, because I can be a chameleon. I have several different companies. There's so many things we do. One's in mobile, one's in software, one's in entertainment, one's transact. I can be anything. So I ask a lot of questions of the other person. You know, if they say, oh, what do you do? Well, we've got a couple different companies. Hey, tell me more about you. And I drill down, which if you're meeting somebody and you're meeting somebody that's a casting director, you can craft what you are to that person. And if they're a director, you can craft. So I kind of fall on both sides. Know exactly what you want, but ask a lot of questions, and then you can craft your message of what you are based on what somebody else is after you talk to them.
That's very interesting. That goes back to the research you were talking about, Blair.
Yeah, I think knowing who you're talking to, knowing who you're having this business meeting with is something that's really important. A lot of actors overlooked it. It's probably worth mentioning right now. I think it's something we're going to come back to several times, and you've probably heard it before. It is not rocket science, but we're here tonight to talk about the business of acting and thinking of it as a business, thinking of yourself as a product. Sounds kind of crass, but it's true. I mean, that's what we're here to do. And everything we're talking about tonight is going to be about selling this product to the buyers, who are going to be casting directors, who are working on behalf of the producers. Or even if you're taking a meeting with an agent or manager, you are selling your product to them. So knowing who you're talking to, knowing what they need, is crucial, is very important, because that's how you brand yourself. It's how you present this product in a certain light, because you need to know what they need. You're trying to sell your product to them. And as far as marketing materials go, if you think about yourself as a product, what do products need? They need a brand image. They need the box that makes people pick it up off the shelf. Well, that's going to be your headshots. It's going to be your resume. How do you brand yourself? How do you provide these marketing materials that are going to interest people and make them want to think of you or buy that product? And I think that's something we're going to come back to a lot tonight, is thinking of it as a business, thinking about how would you market a business, how would you brand an image, how would you sell that business. And actually the difference between sales and marketing is something I think we'll get into as well, because there's a slight difference there too.
Just to bring it back to what Tammy was talking about, I think one of the things that I used to, back in the PR days, I'm going way back now, but back in my PR days, one of the things I used to talk with people about is, look, I can sell any story. I can pitch any story, but I can't pitch a dozen stories at once. And I think that's kind of what you're saying. And in a way, that's what you're saying too, is you want to talk to someone long enough to find out what story is going to stick with them. And I think that's one of the important things. We talk with actors a lot, and we say, look, you spend so much time trying to get agents and managers or casting directors or whatever to learn about you. How much time do you spend learning about them, finding out what it is that they're looking for, what it is that sort of resonates with them? Stephen is a specialist in connecting people to people, connecting on an individual level, instead of this sort of mass mentality of I want to be friends with everyone. It's and I've seen his LinkedIn profile. He's got a lot more connections than I do, but it's a little bit more about trying to make individual connections, and that's why we built the tools that we have. It's kind of why you're talking about it's easier to sell a single story. So help the people who are working on your PR campaign, or the people who are advising you in that way.
Great. Now, Blair, could you go back? The sales versus marketing, how it pertains to an actor. What is that? What is the difference there, and why is it important?
Well, it's sort of a way that I think about it, just to kind of help categorize what I'm working on. Sales is, and I'm going to steal your billboard story because it's a really good one.
It's yours now.
Sales, if you think of sales almost as the audition process, you are selling yourself for a specific role. You are hoping the casting director buys you on the spot, or the director or the producer. They want to buy you for the specific role, make the sale, sign the contract, get paid, you're done. That's great. And you want, obviously, as many of those as possible. But in order to get to that point of sale, before that, and kind of underlying, surrounding that, is marketing. And Brian tells a great story that, if you're driving down the road and you see a billboard for, Gatorade or something, the point of that billboard is not to have you come to a screeching halt, stop the car in the middle of the road and run out to the nearest store and buy a Gatorade right then. The point is to put Gatorade in your brain, to think about Gatorade, to think, hey, next time you're thirsty, maybe think about Gatorade. And if you see enough of these billboards and you see enough of these posters, then the next time you're in 7-Eleven, you're figuring out, what do I want? You think, you know what, maybe I should try Gatorade. That's marketing. And that's what an actor needs to do literally every day. You want to get your name out there, get to know the people who are looking to buy, and find the people who are looking to buy your type. and that goes back to what you're saying about chameleon. It's great if you can play 1,000 roles and you're very talented, and that's great, and that will serve you. But especially at the beginning, when our job as sort of journeyman actors is to serve the people who are paying for the stories, the producers, the directors, they have a story to tell. They're looking for people to help tell that story. So my job right now is to find those people who need me to tell their story. So as I learn what kind of roles I play or what kind of roles that people seem to want to hire me for, obviously that's where I'm going to start to target my marketing. I want those people to know I exist. I want them to know what kind of roles I play. And there's lots of ways to do that, and we'll get into that. But a lot of times actors are very, very focused on the audition. They just want the audition. They want the audition. They want the job. And while you want as many as those as possible, it's that sort of long-term marketing. I mean, we always talk about how, if you do effective long-term marketing, it's not about a specific job. It's about building careers over time. It's about building a relationship with a person over time, so that when you meet them, it doesn't have to be about this specific job. It can be about, hey, you're a casting director and I'm an actor, and I hope we can work together in the future. There's a mentality thing here, and it can work really to your advantage. The more you learn about a casting director, the more you get to know what they do, the more you're able to talk to them about what they do. It sort of almost changes the air in the room when you meet them. A lot of actors sort of go into a room hat in hand. Oh, God, please hire me. You are the gatekeeper. Beyond you is, the job, the golden bucket, and I just want that. And to actually go into a room and know exactly what a casting director is working on and what kind of projects, being able to say, hey, I saw you picked up a new pilot. Congratulations, that's really great. Or, I know you're working on a new show. It's about lawyers. I played a lot of lawyers. I hope we can work together in the future. To have that kind of conversation, now it's sort of peer-to-peer. It's I'm a working professional in this town. You're a working professional in this town. I hope we can work together. If not on this job, then down the road. And in order to build that kind of rapport with a casting director, it takes some time. It takes getting to know them over long term. And that's the marketing. That's where the real effort goes, so that you can actually make that sale when the opportunity comes.
Those are great points. Now, I'd like to get into the actual specific tools you use for such marketing. Let's leave the web alone for just 1 second and talk about the actual nitty-gritty. Pictures, reel. What do you find to be the best, non-internet for right now, promotional tools that an actor needs to have to do effective marketing? Anyone?
Well, I'll throw it out. Just what I've been using.
Yeah,
so
please,
what's been beneficial to me. I mean, obviously we've talked about headshot, resume, your calling card, standard issue. You have to have them. And there's lots of seminars and advice you can get about headshots and resumes, about making sure they look like you, making sure they're updated. And again, this is the brand. If your brand goes ahead of you and creates an impression, and then you come in behind it and create a different impression, it's confusing the marketplace. It's bait and switch. It's not what you want to do. You want to be the image that your headshot is representing. So making sure the headshot looks like you, and I know you guys have heard this kind of advice before. Actually, in headshots, just as a quick side note, as things are becoming more and more online, headshots are changing because of that. We've seen the three-quarter image was a big deal for a while. And we see things coming a little bit tighter now. That's because a lot of stuff's happening online, and casting directors who are looking at these headshots are looking at 2x2 squares, about yay big. And you look at enough of these, and you realize it's the ones that are sort of centered on the face and showing the eyes that really, really make a difference. But your headshot and resume, standard issue. Postcards are a big deal, and it's something that you guys have probably heard about. Keeping in touch with casting directors, again, is a big deal. If you want to create a dialogue that expands your career, you need to keep in touch with casting directors to let them know what you're working on, and you also need to let them know that you're aware of what they're working on. I use postcards, obviously, to say thank you to somebody who's called me in or given me an audition or an opportunity. I also use postcards to congratulate casting directors I know when they've picked up a new job. When I see that they get a new pilot or a new gig. That's a great opportunity to say, I saw, because it's just like actors. They're looking for their next job too. So when they get a job, to say congratulations, or an associate I know, if they get promoted and now they're a casting director, absolutely, I'm going to send them a card. Actually, to be honest, depending on how well I know them, if I know them really well, if we work together, I'll put the postcards away and I'll actually take out a thank you note that I just write by hand. Because I personally, if I know them and they know me, and we've worked together before. I just think it's a little classier. You know, postcard is a little more salesy.
Because a postcard usually has your headshot on
Yeah.
it, and so they know who you are because they may not know your name.
Which is really an effective marketing tool. But again, I think, and this goes back to knowing who you're talking to. You know, if there's a casting director who's hired me on 2 or 3 jobs, sending them my postcard with my agent, which they already know, and my name and headshot, which they already know, I prefer to send them, you know, a handwritten note saying, I saw you guys picked up that new pilot you wanted, congratulations, that's great. And I leave it at that. You don't even, you know, please hire me. It's not necessary. Knowing who you're talking to and knowing what the message you want to send becomes important that way. But postcards, absolutely. Casting directors, we've interviewed a lot of them as we were developing CastingAbout, and the amount of mail, you know they get a lot of mail. Think of the amount of mail you think they get, triple it, and you're almost there. It is phenomenal. They hire people just to throw out mail. I mean, their numbers are just insane. So postcards are great because they can look at it, they can flip it over, they can do a quick read. And I've seen casting directors take a postcard and pin it up to their wall because I want to remember that person. Postcards are great. Yeah.
I just want to follow up on that, the postcard question. We were out in New York launching the New York version of CastingAbout because both Blair and I don't have a lot of connections out in New York. We spent some of our time meeting with some of the casting directors in New York. We were out in Tara Rubin's office, and we were talking with a variety of the casting associates there. And they said, one of the things they said that I thought was really interesting and relevant here is, you cannot believe how many actors send me something that says, "Dear casting director," or "To whom it may concern, please consider me for any possibilities that may exist." And she said, seriously, I barely have time to read the stuff that's hand addressed to me, let alone, I get something like that, it goes straight in the file. It's part of the reason why you want to find these kinds of tools that allow you to connect one-to-one, because it gives you the ability to get out a nice pen and, write by hand something that says, "Dear Jerry, enjoyed meeting you at the workshop," or "Thank you for bringing me in for the whatever." It gives you just that opportunity that maybe they're going to hold it in their hand for a few more seconds before it goes wherever it goes.
Well, we've talked to casting directors who actually receive envelopes, manila envelopes, with a headshot inside. That's it. And they have a pile of them. These are the headshots that come in. We keep them because we think it's funny. No note, no anything, just a headshot. And again, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but I think, everything you send out has its own message and then its subtext, and you got to think about that. You got to think about, what is the message I'm really sending? And if you're mass mailing out headshots to a bazillion people with no note, at some point, casting director is going to realize that the subtext you're saying is, "Dear God, I'm desperate. Anybody, please hire me. Anybody."
To that point, is there a point at which you can send too much mail? You send too many postcards. How do you find that sweet spot?
Well, we don't advocate for stalking. That's
right.
Where we draw the line there. I think. No, I mean, this is a tricky thing, and it's especially tricky because you're so, all of you are so. You're here tonight on a Tuesday night. You came to this thing. You have a passion for your career, and sometimes that turns into just pushing and pushing and pushing, and it's something you have to be really be sensitive to. I don't think there's an answer. But we have sometimes seen people who've said, well, I do a mailing to my target list, the people I most want to meet, the 20 people that I most want to meet, and I do that mailing once every month. Okay, that might be okay. I do a mailing maybe once every 2 weeks to those people. That might be okay. I think a little more frequently than that, we're starting to get into the stalking side of things, and it is possible to use these tools to make a bad impression, and we certainly don't want to advocate for that, because those things linger a lot longer than the good impression that you've worked hard to make.
And Tammy, maybe from PR background, you could talk about the fact that you're dealing with people here, and if you're a business and they're a business and you're looking to work together, there's the letting you know I exist and letting you know how we can work together, and then there's just badgering you, time and time, and you start to create a bad impression.
Absolutely. I think if you have nothing new as far as projects or new information or something new in that way that you're trying to get across, it goes with the media, it goes with casting, I think it goes with probably most people, then there's really no reason to keep sending a postcard. Now, that means all of you are probably very proactive. You probably have reasons, so you could send one once a month. I'm sure you probably have something that you've done. I want to go back, though, to the photos. For the media, which is what I am sort of here for, I always tell my actors or comedians or whoever is on a movie set or a TV set, take your own camera with you, because there's probably opportunity there for you to get a behind-the-scenes photo. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to give away anything. It can be you in your trailer having somebody take your photo. It is just you on set. These are the types of photos that if we can get one photo printed, which they tend to do, a headshot type, maybe we can get a second one because we have a photo from being on set. So maybe we'll milk it for not just one picture, but maybe we'll get 2 out of it. And who knows? You can get more opportunity that way. So you might ask, though, of course, if you have signed a confidentiality clause and, you know, if you're on Lost, which I've been dealing with some clients on Lost, you can't give away anything, not even the episode in which you're going to appear on. So that's different and unique. But most sets are kind of friendly, and if, you know, you're not giving anything away, you're not the Green Goblin ghoul or whatever, and you're not going to show off your costume ahead of time before they want to release it, they're usually pretty casual about it and pretty okay with it. And if you can grab a celebrity, you feel comfortable enough to grab, you know, the star that you've been in playing opposite against, and they don't mind, even better. Even better. Even just to post on your own website. That's something you guys should be doing, whether you go out to the media with it or not. Use those pictures on your own sites to promote yourself, and you never know when somebody's going to be Googling something, some you know, celebrity name, and they come across you too.
Stephen, did you have something?
I hear this and I don't disagree, but I tend to operate a little differently, I think. The headshot, the marketing, all of that, in my world, it's like a PowerPoint. Anybody knows me, we spend a lot of time on PowerPoint to tell the message. But let me ask you a question. How many people in here want to be in television, want to be in a TV show, for instance? Okay, what kind of TV show?
Probably a sitcom, a comedy.
Okay, a sitcom comedy. What are the top 3 sitcom comedies coming up next year that are casting right now or in the next 3 months? Exactly. Yeah, I don't understand what you guys do. If I was in your, I'd know the top 3 sitcoms. I'd know who's casting them, who's funding them, what network they're going to be on, and I'd find a way to get introduced to that casting person through somebody that knows them, to take a meeting very early and often so I get introduced to them. To not do the research, to not know what show is coming up and who's casting it and who's I don't understand entertainment because I don't get how you guys operate.
Well, I think, interestingly, I think that
and
probably...
I didn't mean to pick on you, I'm sorry, but it was just to kind of prove a point.
Just something that might actually go to something that we were to talk about a little bit later, but representation. I think that for actors, I think in a lot of ways, representatives, agents, managers fulfill that kind of role as a liaison, making direct connections between individuals. But I think that's a really great point.
Could be, but if you have a representative agent or manager, they're somewhat open to your direction. So if you're the one doing, it's your business. They work for you. So if your business is you want to be in a sitcom and comedy, do the research to see what comedies are coming up and who's casting it and who's funding it and who did one that's similar, and get introduced to those people. You know, everything for me is a one-on-one relationship of where I'm trying to go, and I find people that have already been there and get introduced to them through credible references. Now, when we get there, we need all of the marketing tools, but I'm very, very, very proactive in the people I want to get to, but it's research. It's what are they looking for? What are they casting? What have they done prior? What other shows have they done that you may know somebody to get introduced to them? And then you have to have your message together when you go in. But
absolutely,
waiting for things to happen is just too arbitrary, and you guys don't have time for that.
Absolutely.
And if we're going to talk about representation later, let me know. We can come back. But
right.
Basically, that's a lesson I learned the hard way. I sat back for a year and waited for them to do their job, and they sort of sweet-talked me into it. I remember I showed up on the first day. I signed the contract, and they said, bring headshots. So I brought them big stack headshots with the resume stapled to it, because that's kind of what you do. And I walk in, and I'll never forget the look I got. I handed them, and they go, oh, that's sweet. They go, no, honey. We do that for you. We work for you. You don't ever have to staple again. We will take care of you. And I said, okay. So I went home and I waited for them to take care of me. And a year later, there you go. So, I think you're right. I mean, you can, again, thinking like a business, if you're the product and you have an agent, you have a manager, this is your team. This is your sales and marketing team. They are partners. They are there to help you. There's that old, 10% rule. Agents get 10%, so they should do 10% of the work. You should be doing 90% of the work. Blah, blah, blah. But it's a good point, is that, it's not just the work you do on set. It is the research that you do. It is knowing exactly who you're talking to and not. We've said this before to actors, is name any other business where you would walk into a room and not know who the name of the person was you're meeting and not know what else they do. It doesn't happen. But yet I have friends, actors of mine, that, hey, I got an audition for Cold Case. I go, great, who are you meeting? Well, I got an audition for Cold Case. No, who are you meeting? Well, it's Cold Case. Yeah, okay, who are you meeting and what else do they cast? Not knowing who they are, not knowing the name, even going in for an audition and knowing the associate's name, knowing the assistant's name. Who are the people you're going to meet when you walk through the door? Who's going to sign you in? Wouldn't it be cool if you can look up their name, walk in and say, you're Amanda, right? Nice to meet you. Thanks so much for bringing me in. You have just started what could be a career-long relationship with that moment. But yet actors walk in all the time. They walk in, they sign in, I'm here, work on their lines, go in, do it, and leave. Done. You just blown an opportunity. Maybe you get the job, that's great, but to start this relationship, to know their name, to know what else they're working on. And personally, actually, it's happened with me. I walked in once and said, hey, thanks for the call, I appreciate it. And by the way, I saw you guys picked up that pilot, and congratulations. And we left it at that. That was it. But 2 weeks later, I get a call to come in and work on the pilot. Maybe it's coincidence, maybe it's not. You just start that. It's about that kind of relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and I think so. Networking obviously is the fundamental. That is what we're trying to do. So to get back, though, to the specific tools that we're using to try to get that done, I think that a big topic that I'm seeing here, we're going to get into the questions, individual questions later. Reels are a big question. Whether you absolutely need one for actors who are just starting out, don't have a reel together yet. Where you put your reel, how long should it be, that kind of a thing. Tammy, as someone who works with, I assume, a lot of different kinds of actors with different backgrounds, different things to offer, do you absolutely have to have a reel? Is it better to have any reel than, what is your kind of experience?
Well, with regard to putting it out there to the media, you don't have to have a reel. And if you don't have one that you're proud of, it's probably better not to have one. Because what the media is looking for is, who is this person? So if we have a link that I can send to them and they can click on, or we send them an actual hard copy, believe it or not, not very many of them do that anymore. But if I send it to them and they watch it and it doesn't live up to their expectation, it's better to not have something for them at all. And I'd rather build you up. Because 9 times out of 10, when I'm talking to them, it's prior to whatever project that we're working on now is coming out. So it's not coming out for 2 more weeks. I'm pitching you. I can build, I know they're going to hate me, but I can build it up to whatever I want that to be. And then later tell them, they got cut out. It got on the cutting room floor. They had a big, huge scene. Yeah, it was really great. And it ended up just being 3 lines. But they don't know that. So that's part of the spin of it all. And I'd rather spin it on paper and using still photos and things of that nature and get them excited than to show them something that you're not excited about and doesn't really represent what you do well. Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, and just going along with that, there was a question in here about a traditional press kit. Do the normal working actors have such a need for such a thing, or?
There are 2 different types of press kits that I use. The first is a press kit that actually goes out to the press. The second is what I call the presentation kit, and that would be a kit that you would use to go out to get meetings, to go out to find a new rep, to use to get an agent. Those are 2 completely different types of packages. The press kit itself is very plain. It's text. It's a lot of words. It's your bio. It's maybe press releases. It's photos that can be attached as well for them to use. So it's downloadable photos, that kind of thing. It's typically sent electronically unless I'm trying to persuade them to do a larger feature, and then I might send them an actual hard copy with a demo reel and that kind of thing. But it's very simple. We do not include any quotes from previous reviews. We do not include any clippings or anything like that. Those all go into the kits that you would possibly use to try and get better rep, or to get a meeting, or to get somebody to pay attention to you and on the business side of, but not the media side. Is that clear?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, does that cover pretty much all of the non-web-based, like hard promotional tools? Anyone?
Well, I wonder if I can jump in on the demo reel question. And you know, when I started working with CastingAbout, I was fairly new to the acting thing, so I asked a lot of questions. I asked them of Blair, I asked them of actors, I asked them of casting directors, and so on. Demo reels have changed a lot over the last several years. I see a few of you nodding over there and so on. But you know, it used to be you had your media, whatever it was, and it said demo reel. It started with a black screen and it had your name on it. But now, for the most part, your demo reel exists on your website, where your name is already on the website. It exists on an Actors Access or one of the other services like that, where your name is already there. So there are a lot of things you can do differently with your demo reel that maybe you didn't do in the original. If you're still using that old demo reel that starts by saying demo reel, you're kind of already in trouble in the first place, because the first thing you're telling people is something they already know. The second thing you're telling them is your name, you know, in that black screen, which is something they already know. Cut it out. The first thing on your demo reel, one of the things that casting directors told me, and it was also repeated by other people I talked to, is that most casting directors, when they start watching your demo reel, they watch about the first maybe 30 seconds of your reel, okay? And then they decide whether to turn it off or not. So that second scene that's on your demo reel, it might be awesome, but they're not going to necessarily go that far. With the online services, you can now split your demo reel into individual scenes. So why have a single video that says demo reel when they're only going to watch the first 30 seconds of it anyway? Split your demo reel. Ask the online services to do it. Actors Access will do it for you. The other services I know have the ability to set things up that same way. Split your demo reel into scenes and use a description for those scenes. Comedy scene. This is me on Desperate Housewives. This is me acting opposite Dustin Hoffman. Whatever those things are, that's going to catch people's eye, because if I'm a casting director, I might skip over the first two things and go to comedy reel, because that's the thing I'm interested in and that's the thing that's going to resonate. On your demo reel, that might be the third. You know, in the old days, that might be the third thing and nobody's still watching. They're answering their phones, they're dealing with all this other stuff. So I think that's some of the stuff that people told me seemed like pretty useful information.
Yeah, the whole idea of a demo reel is sort of evolved to demo clips now. You know, where because it's digital, you even DVDs, you can jump to a chapter, which is great. You can set it up that way, so you can have individual clips, and this goes back to the idea of knowing who you're talking to and targeting your message. So if I'm targeting a comedy casting director, here are my comedy clips. You know, you don't have to sit through the whole reel again. And again, it's knowing who your audience is, knowing who your meetings with, knowing who you're targeting. So being able to split your demo into clips like that and label them so people know what they're looking at is really a great idea. And just something that I learned, Brian said the first thing that people see, you know, we're talking about very limited time, 30 seconds. Is if they watch for 30 seconds, that's great. But I've seen a lot of demo reels where people, you know, maybe you've got a great scene opposite a big star, and they do all the talking first, and then it cuts to you. I've seen the first 15 seconds of a reel. It's like, that's Sarah Jessica Parker, and I'm waiting. Or even worse yet, it's you're acting with somebody that's an unknown, and the reel starts, and the first 10, 15 seconds is not you. You know, the reel doesn't. The beauty of it is you don't necessarily have to tell the story, the beginning, middle, and end. They want to see you doing your thing. So when you edit this, work with an editor who gets that and doesn't necessarily, well, if we take this out, you know, they won't understand what you're saying because it's out of context. Yeah, maybe that doesn't matter. Let's focus on you, because we got a very limited amount of time to promote this product, to promote you.
Now, going along with that, I would like to talk about the online presence. What are the best websites to use?
CastingAbout.
Besides CastingAbout. We have a lot of questions in here, and we're going to get to specific questions later, but a lot of questions about IMDb, IMDb Pro, best way to use those in marketing for yourself and how to market yourself on them. Facebook, Twitter, MySpace, the social media arena, and personal websites, LA Casting Frontier, Actors Access. Please tell me, because I would like to know what are the best ones to have. Where should you be? Did you? Yeah, Stephen. Please.
But I'm the contrarian, so I'm going to say none of them. But but again, everything for me needs qualification. We've actually spent about 15 months about to launch a business called Orion Nation, where the stars shine brighter, because of all the fake and misinformation. So as great as Facebook is, as much as you move up your profile, there's fake fan sites, there's fake Twitter, you know, the gossip sites, OMG, Wonderwall, TMZ, even IMDb isn't really consumer interfacing. So they're great tools. I mean, the Facebook fan pages and things like that are good, but the reality is you can't bring in sponsors, you can't message out. There's a lot of limitations in the tools that are there. So I'm a bit of a contrarian because we've looked at the model of entertainment and think it's broken, and we're actually launching a site for the publicists and the celebrities to directly post content, 100% control their message, no fake fan sites, brands can directly sponsor it, you can aggregate into channels, which is a huge interest when you've got a charity event and you have a family and you have a comedy project. You know, this aggregation of information to collapse the time frame for somebody seeing what you're about. You know, so we've actually looked at what's broken in all of the models and have built a new one that we hope to launch in about 60 days. So I don't have a good answer because I don't think they work. But if they did, Facebook with fan pages is probably the best. You know, Twitter's interesting if you build an audience, but it's very limited in what you can do and contextualize. LinkedIn, I don't think has any value at all in the entertainment space.
As far as you guys who are your working actors, the Facebook fan page, the social media stuff, it seems to be able to get your name out to some audience, but is it an effective business tool at all? The social networking sites, have you guys felt like you've seen any, are they worth anything? Are they good? Should you put any effort into those sites, or should you put all your effort into sites like your Actors Access profile, your personal website?
Well, I'll go out on a limb and say yes and yes. In all the spare time that you have right now, if you're a new actor who's just trying to get started, you know, shaking the tree in a variety of different ways. Sometimes you don't know exactly where the connection that's going to pay off is going to come from. There are a lot of actors who are experimenting with Facebook fan pages, who are experimenting with things. Now, I'm not talking about Ashton Kutcher, who is an established actor, and frankly, he can do whatever he wants to do, and it will be just fine, because he's got a juggernaut running behind him, and we should all be so lucky. I'm talking about the people like you and me who are not well known, who are maybe have a few credits to your name or maybe have no credits to your name, who are trying to build some kind of energy. And who are trying to sort of, you know, make connections. There are a number of casting directors who are starting to get active on Facebook and who are being sort of actor-friendly on Facebook. We're pretty good friends with Bonnie Gillespie, who I think some people in Los Angeles know, who's a very actor-friendly casting director, and I hope it's okay that I said that, because now everybody's going to go find her on Facebook and want to be her friend.
If you don't know who Bonnie Gillespie is and you are a struggling actor or working actor, know who Bonnie Gillespie is, because
actually know who she is and buy her book. I'm not, and that's just my own. I'm not getting any kickback from Bonnie, I promise. But she has a book called Self-Management for Actors.
Self-Management for Actors. And Blair's not getting any kickback, but he is in the book, so you know.
No, you're right. I forgot. The reason I thought about Bonnie's book is because she actually is kind of at the cutting edge of a lot of electronic. She's all over Facebook and Twitter, and if there's anything electronic or internet, you know, Bonnie has spent time, because the woman doesn't sleep, so that's what she does in the middle of the night. And actually her book has some great chapters on advice on how to use some of these things. You know, it's a tough thing to speak to because as many actors as there are in this room and then watching, that's how many different stories there are about how to do what we do. And I've said before, if you're an actor and you have a system and it's working, keep doing it. If it works for you, absolutely keep doing it, because there are a lot of ways to do this. And I sound like a broken record, but what we can't lose sight of is whether you have your own website or you're taking advantage of some of the social media sites, however you get the message out about yourself, it's still about the message. It's still about presenting who you are and how you can benefit the people who are looking to buy talent. You know, it's about making those connections. So if that you have time and you look through Facebook and you find some of these casting director sites and you follow a little bit about what they do, there's different ways to use it. If you send 1,000 messages to them and respond to everything they say and say, please bring me in, please bring me in, please bring me in, that's creating a bad impression. But if you follow them and realize that they're talking about something that you have personal experience with, or they're from your hometown, or they're doing a project that's close to you and you can comment on that and make that connection, then great, you've made that work for you. It's about being smart. We always say it's not just marketing, it's marketing smartly. So if you can use these services to build a connection, then great.
And one of the things, I'm sorry to jump right in, but one of the things that I think you mentioned, if you're going to use Facebook or you're going to use Twitter, which I think are probably the two things you want to look at right now, and recognize that technology changes very quickly. Stephen, what's the name of that the business you're going to? Do you want to say it again? Because I didn't write it down. I know some people did.
It's Orion Nation, so it's a constellation of the brightest stars. It allows the star to shine brighter.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so this may be the next thing. A year from now, we might be saying, don't do Facebook, don't be Twitter, go to Orion Nation. But if today you're working on those kinds of things, I don't want to know on Facebook or Twitter what you had for breakfast. A casting director doesn't want to know that you just went to the bathroom and it was painful. These are not the things, if you're going to represent yourself online, this stuff stays out there forever. And so if you're going to represent yourself as a professional, as a working professional. Be mindful of that. Now, it's okay if your buddy from high school is rude and crass and whatever, and that ends up on your Facebook page. We all get that. But if you're up there and you're representing yourself in some way, there have been a lot of news stories about people who didn't get hired because the hiring agency, the company that was looking to hire somebody, saw their Facebook page and said, "Oh, we don't want anything to do with that." You run the same risk. But if you can put information on Facebook or Twitter about that you're excited for an audition, that you're excited for the scenes that you've been working on with your scene partner in your acting class, these things represent you as a working professional. I think maybe it does nothing for you, but it probably can't hurt, and that's not a bad way to spend your time.
Can I make? I view it as the difference between proactive and reactive. To me, a Facebook fan page is like a PowerPoint, and again, it's similar tool sets but different. We spend a lot of time getting the message right. So Facebook to me is a representation of what you do and what you want to be in a reactive situation of when somebody goes to find you. Totally different than being proactive where you're finding the people you want to meet. Finding the people you want to meet, and again, I'll do it a different way real quick, and this is circling around. How many of you would like to be represented by CAA or some big agency? Okay, if I asked any of you which agent do you want within CAA, how many of you would know the name of the exact agent you want?
Nice.
One person, a couple. See, the real in all of this, in my opinion, is support material around what you do. So even with the Orion Nation, we're not discounting that. We've got a social media directory in. IMDb is great for all the stuff you've done. We're creating a site that says, here's the original content, but if you're a celebrity, here's your official Facebook, your official Twitter, your official Bebo, your official charity site. It's more of an official directory where you still use all the tools. So I'm not saying they're good or bad. You want to use all the tools, but it's different between reactive and proactive that starts separating you from everybody else.
Stephen, I think that's a great point, and I like the proactive reactive because it sort of circles back to what we were talking about earlier, which is, spending time getting to know about the people you're trying to meet as opposed to all our time trying to get them to know us. I think it's easy when we start talking about this topic, like, well, what online websites can we use to promote ourselves? If we're thinking online, and I do it too, and it's easy for all of us instantly to think, okay, what websites would help promote me? Whereas maybe we should all just stop and say, well, how about using some of these tools to actually do research on the people we want to get to know? Yes, there are your own website or having a profile, say, on Actors Access. There are ways to get your presence out there, and that should be done. But a lot of these, even social networking sites, spend some time thinking not so much, how can I use it to promote myself, but how can I do some research on people that I need to learn about as well. And in my own personal experience, and again, it's just there'll be exceptions to this rule, and other people will have different experiences. But in my experience, those sites are a lot more beneficial in that manner than getting my word out. I have a website, and I have a resume, and I have a profile and Actors Access that my agent can send out, and that's all great. until I'm, a celebrity that people want to follow, something like a fan page or Twitter is not, I don't need to promote that way. I'd rather use it to learn about people that I need to go get.
Right.
Form my target list.
I'm sorry, and again, this is just the inversion of exactly what these guys are saying is, I'd rather go find the Twitter of everybody I want to connect with and follow them than worry about whether they're following me. If they're following me, great. What do I have to say? But if I can get the Twitter of the casting agent, the direct, and follow the industry, that's going to give me insight. If I get fortunate enough to meet them or get introduced, I'm following that person. So it's so much of it is back to just being proactive around the research of who you really want to connect to and getting to that person and knowing about them.
And I think that also works for the media as well, and what outlets you want to see yourself landing in. Of course, there are those that I know we all want to be in, Variety and Hollywood Reporter, but those are very specific ones. Those are trade publications, first of all. But as far as the consumer stuff goes, figure out what outlets do you think speak to what you're doing, the type of films that you're making. Are they more independent? Are they edgy? Well, so then what are the outlets that maybe would cover something that you're working on versus just the Joe Blow blockbuster over here? Because there are those very niche outlets, and there are lots of them online. There are a lot that cover horror or sci-fi, or look for comedy, or that are very specifically geared towards the different genres that our entertainment is being created in. So start to discover those for yourself. And that's something that you guys can do now without having a project. Like what they're saying, do the research, figure out what kinds of stuff you want to see yourself landing in. Because it helps me to then create a real serious target list for you.
Excellent. Now, I think that we are, does anyone know what time it is? I do have 1 hour. Okay, great. So, wonderful. Thank you. So, we are actually going to go ahead and start doing some very specific questions from the audience. We have a question here. This is for Blair from Nicole Bella. Are agent workshops where you pay to get in front of a handful of agents worth doing? And I think this question also applies to casting director workshops, like Real Pros, TVI, those types of things. Are those effective marketing tools for an actor?
Especially lately, there's been, some hubbub about the whole workshop thing because, whether or not you're paying to audition or not, or paying to learn. I know there's some, and different people are debating about that, and that's sort of that's an argument I don't want to be a part of. So I can speak from personal experience, which is when I first got to town, I realized that I was a new product in town, and what I wanted to sell myself as a New York classically trained actor with a really fun TV credit, with a TV credit. But that's how I was going to promote myself, And the message was, I'm new in town, and this is what I got, and I hope that we have a chance to work together. In order to do that, I needed to come face-to-face with casting directors, and the workshops presented itself as an opportunity for me to do that. And they actually have worked for me. I've met casting directors, and I've booked some jobs. More importantly, I've formed some relationships. I've met casting directors that I knew the face and the name, and they knew me. And sometimes years later, an opportunity comes up through my agent gets an audition for me, and I go in, and I know who they are. They know who I am because we have that connection. So in that sense, it has worked for me. I've learned a lot. It's having an opportunity to go in and listen to somebody else in the business talk about the professional experience, learning what it's like to be a casting director in their shoes, learning what it's like to cast their particular show. I've talked to actors who said, well, I do a lot of these workshops and I've never booked anything. And it can be frustrating, but if you kind of go into it with a different approach and say, well, how much have you learned about the casting process? How many people have you, been introduced to? So I think it can be beneficial. Again, do it smartly. We have a buddy of ours from New York who comes to town once a year. He's a great stand-up comedian. I went to college with him in New York, and he comes to town for pilot season because he wants to meet the sitcom casting directors because this is what he does. But he's smart about it. He actually creates a target list of all the associates, because he's new, so he targets associates. All the associates who are casting half-hour television right now. whenever he comes to town. And that becomes his target list for workshops. And he will go and gather as many calendars from as many workshops as he can, and he looks for those people. And that's who he wants to go to meet. Not necessarily to audition, like give me a job right now, but you need to know I exist and I want to meet you. So I think that's really smart to use workshops that way. It's a great opportunity for an introduction. And if you look at the calendars, you find the people that you want to meet, I think it can be a great thing. I know I've had some success with it, and I know other actors have as well.
Another question, kind of going along with this, a bunch of questions coming up, so I'm not going to list all the names, but people want to know where to do the research. They want to know, finding out what the top 3 sitcoms are, who's casting them, and all of that info. I think CastingAbout is an excellent resource for finding out what specifically is CastingAbout do. Where do you find information on shows, agents to target, casting directors to target? What are your guys' favorite sites, resources?
Well, one of the things that I want to point out, Blair and I started CastingAbout because of the problem of trying to find this information. And so when you log into CastingAbout as a member, you'll see every show that's casting in Los Angeles or in New York, depending on which region you're logging into. And it's updated behind the scenes all the time by our researchers, so you're always seeing the latest information. You can then slice and dice that information, so you can sort by just the comedies, just the pilots, just television, just film. In New York, we're doing theater as well, so you can track that way. And that's the reason why we did it. We also, because we wanted to do something for free, CastingAbout is not a service. We have to pay our researchers, and so we wanted to do something for free. So there is a CastingAbout Twitter account, and we put up news. Because our researchers, in many cases, are finding out about this information before anyone else is finding out about it. And so when someone starts up a new project, when a casting director is assigned to a new project and so on, you'll find that on Twitter. So if you don't want to spend any money, and I know everybody's reaching into actors' pockets for everything, the free thing you can do, you're not going to get a lot of information off of Twitter because we only have 140 characters to tell you stuff. But we do try to give you that information, and that's available for free. And it's a great way for us to pass along some general things that our researchers have found.
And without it sounding like a commercial for CastingAbout, I mean, the point was, from my own experience, I was really frustrated, as the same with these questions are, is where do you find this information and how do you keep it updated? The guidebooks that have been published, problem is those are out of date literally the day they're published, because things move around way too quickly, especially in the television world. And same for those pre-printed labels. So the idea when I got together with Brian over those burritos was, is there a way to take all the information and put it in one place and then let actors use it, however they need to market themselves. So, over time, we've built up this research team, and we have a relationship with Breakdown Services, and we're tapped into that data, which is phenomenal because, pretty much everything going on in this town kind of flows through Breakdowns as far as casting directors releasing information. So we list every TV and film project that's actively casting, who's casting it, what their mailing address is, what the status of the show is, which I think is really important. Is it casting? Is it on hiatus? Is it on hold? Has it wrapped? People spend a lot of time doing these mass mailings, and half their mail is going to offices on hiatus, which means the casting director's on vacation, and your mail is sitting around in a bin and then getting tossed. So put all the information in one place, and then let actors search for, like our friend Eric, who searches just for the half-hour comedies or the film shows, or read the log line about a show to find out what it is, or link to that show's official website so you can do research on their website. And for TV shows these days, you can actually watch an episode. That's why we did it that way, so that all the information can be in one place, because of those problems, and hopefully it's working out for people because of that, putting it all together.
I think that there actually are quite a lot of resources, and one of these questions was saying that there are so many places to get the information, and it's hard to know which ones are reputable. I just read a great article that Bonnie Gillespie actually wrote. If you go to showfacts.com, Bonnie Gillespie does a column that's really great. She gets a lot of great information out there. I can't remember the name of the column. Somebody tweeted it. Is it Actor's Voice? Yeah. Thank you, Actor's Voice. That's the name of her column, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the actual article, I'm not sure what the title of that one was, so I don't know what to tell you to search for. If you guys follow me on Twitter, I'll retweet it tonight. I'll find it. But it's a great article. She actually goes in depth over LA casting, Breakdown Services, Actors Access, whether or not to illegally procure the breakdowns, like different things like that. It's actually, and she tells you really the pros and cons of doing all that. The point is, like, there's just so many places to get this information, to do this research that they're talking about, that could be a whole seminar in and of itself. So, yeah, so thank you guys for that one. Here's a great question. This is addressed to everybody. What do you do to market yourself when you have a lull in your career, or when you need to start over, or I would say when you're about to start out? When you don't have something really specific to market, is that a good time to be trying to reach out to people, or, and if so, how do you recommend, like, you spin that particular?
Again, if you think about, I think it's smart to have a message when you send it out. A lot of actors don't have a message at all, and they just send stuff, and we know that that's not good, that doesn't work. So sometimes it can be tough. What do I say if there is a lull? Depends on how long the lull was. When the agency dumped me and it had been a year, I'd been away from casting directors for a long time, so I could almost reintroduce myself. And what I did is I got some new headshots. I had just started taking a new class. And my message then was that I'd been away for a while. I'm back. I'm studying. I have some new headshots. I'm excited to work with you again and hope we have a chance to meet. It was an introduction. If you are brand new and you're training and when I first got to LA, that's the message was, I'm new here, but this is my experience, and because I'm new, I know you're looking for new talent all the time, and I hope we have a chance to meet because I'm new and you haven't read me yet. So I'm just in town. This is what I did in New York. This is my training. And if you're just starting out, hopefully you do have some training. You do have some background, and whether that's theater or you talk about spin. If you did plays in high school and one play in college, then your training's in theater, and I've trained in theater, now I'm LA, and I'm hoping to work with you. Position it that way. Worst case scenario, if you don't have anything to say about yourself, but you really want to meet somebody, if you know what they're up to, talk about them. That's the time to say, I just saw you picked up a new show, congratulations. Again, it doesn't always have to be about us. Great. So sometimes that message can be about them. Yeah.
I deal with a little bit of a different lull, and the lull tends to be after, what are you doing after the project that I'm currently promoting with you? Because a lot of the media, 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, so what's up next after this film comes out? What I tend to tell people is, if you don't know, because often actors, we don't know what our next gig is, create one. And that can be as easy as, well, I've been working with my writing partner and we're currently developing a web series. It's about, have one line of, it's going to be about high schoolers back in a small town, and we're hoping to do something with it later this fall. Just have an answer. Whether that project ends up coming to fruition or not, or whether it's been in your head and for 10 years or whatever, is fine. It's in development, in your head. But still have an answer, so that then there is no lull, because then it looks like, oh, they know what they're doing next. They're in the game. You have to look like you're in the game and you're constantly working, moving forward, and know what your next thing is.
And the flip side of this, question from Justina for Tammy and Steve. She just wrapped a big project, a film that is set for theatrical release in November. She wants to know, when is it time to start promoting? She started right away after wrapping, but feels that it's not recognized because it's not yet out. So once you wrap a big project, when you do have something, how do you figure out when to start marketing?
For the media, long lead publications, those are the print magazines, they need a minimum of 3 months lead time. For short lead media, which are your newspapers, your online sites, they tend to need less time, especially online. I'm working with people who have stuff coming out next week, and we just started. I tend to like a minimum of 3 weeks to start working on a project. But the more time, the earlier somebody contacts me, like I have people who've contacted me who have stuff coming out, big pictures coming out in November. And I tend to like to start 4 months prior, crafting the release, getting everything I need, getting everything ready to go out, and go out about 3.5 months prior to long lead publications. those are the ones that are going to do larger features and things like that, because that's when, let's face it, they hit the stands a month before the issue is even dated. So they're printing 2 months prior, so they have to close the issue 3 months prior. So you really want to get to them early. The rest of them can all be then after, within that 3 months leading right up to. Keep going and build the momentum that way.
Did you have something you want to add, Steve?
I don't know if I want to add anything because I don't know that I fully understand the question. Not coming out of entertainment, because I listened to it and thought the publicity side I get, wanting to do, but my mind's always into what's next. So the idea of I wrap this, it's going to come out, they're going to do publicity. Me worrying, again, this may not be relevant, but I'm less worried about trying to get publicity or promotion for something that's going to happen 3 months from now than I am about trying to find the guy who's doing the next project 3 months from now. So my mindset's always a little bit differently, but I'm constantly starting over. I mean, we just started something 90 days ago, and I have to develop all new relationships in the environmental space, and it's environmental and green. And for me, it's about how do you develop the relationships? Who's the most environmentally friendly? Who are the top 10 companies? Who are the top designers? And what I've done in the past is going to show itself, but I'm more worried about what can I do next that I can control.
Great, and always looking forward to the next.
Yeah, I'm a forward thing. There's no future in the past, all that kind of stuff. So.
I will say on that note, and I understand what you're saying. However, I would never rely, unless you are the celebrity starring in whatever project it is, do not rely on the studio or the network to do your PR for you, because their job is to get the celebrity on Good Morning America or in, Glamour magazine. It is not to get the supporting cast. So that you're going to be left on your own, even if they tell you, oh, we'll help you, we'll try to get you something. Yeah. It won't happen. I guarantee you it won't happen. It's really hard. So while you're looking for your next project, you do need to be thinking about promoting that one you just finished.
And again, I'll bridge the gap. If I know that in my business, then I'm finding the people who are going to do the promotion that I can get introduced to get in front of them to take the steps. So I'm not saying it's black or white, but everything for me is about getting to the person who I want to get to further my goal. And if what I need to do is publicity, I'm going to find the PR person. With Orion Nation, we were just with Michael Nyman and Sandy Grushon, Jimmy, and all these legendary guys in entertainment that 9 months ago I didn't know, but we figured out, hey, who do we need to make this business successful? It's not the actors, it's the agencies, not even the agents. And we learned how to get to the agents at the highest level because they're the ones that make our business. So it's for me, it's all about really figuring out who you need. And if what you need is publicity or a casting agent, figure out how to get to those people. But your first step is you have to know who they are. You can't say, oh, I want publicity, I want to be covered. It's what's the best industry? Who's going to pick this up? Which magazine? In my mind's so myopic. When you mentioned the book earlier, the first thing I thought of is who's the editor, who's the publisher, and how could I get to Bonnie if I wanted to? So it's just how do you collapse timeframes?
Blair, did you want to?
Yeah, just real quick, as far as marketing to a casting director, sometimes if you have a project that kind of has a long lead, you wrapped, but it's not coming out for a while, use that to your advantage. Exactly. Contact them twice, because especially if you shot on location, what a great message. Hey, I was just away in Utah shooting the film. It went great. I'm back in LA. It was a great experience, and now I hope I get a chance to read for your current project or whatever it may be. I just got back in town after shooting where I played a lawyer, and I saw you just picked up a new show that takes place in a law firm. Boy, it'd be great to meet and read for you. There's your first contact. You just wrapped. You just got back in town. Then 2-3 months from now, when the film is released or the pilot comes out or whatever it is, you now have an opportunity to send another message, which is really proud of this project. It's debuted. Hope you get a chance to see it and hope we get a chance to work together. And again, you are sending specific messages that say, I want to work with you. I hope you need my type, and you have a legitimate chance to meet them twice.
Thank you. So now I want to switch gears a little bit. Same information, different location. Lily Richardson says that she'd like to know how artists and actors can market themselves in cities other than LA. She's in Phoenix, Arizona, and has a local agent, but would love to get work on a television series. What do I need to do to market myself and be seen in this arena? what can people who are out in other markets do to market themselves to maybe productions that are shooting Vancouver, Arizona, whatever? Or what can they do? Is there anything they should be doing to market themselves to people in Los Angeles?
Well, those of you who are in other cities, the agent-actor relationship in other cities can differ from what it is in Los Angeles or even in New York. And so the first thing you want to do is make sure that you have an effective partnership with your agent. So I don't want to be telling someone in Phoenix or somebody in Denver or whatever to start hitting the street and doing all kinds of things. You should first talk to your agent and make sure that that you're working as a team on that, because they might say, you know what, let me do that. In the smaller markets, there are generally fewer big players, which means it's a lot easier to know the people you need to know. It's really hard in Los Angeles and New York, which is why we built CastingAbout for Los Angeles and New York, because it's so hard to find all of these various people. In a smaller market, it's a lot easier to know. I mean, in Chicago, if you know 4 casting directors, you're in good shape, and that's a much easier. I'm sorry, you're from Chicago. I don't know if you know all 4 of those casting directors, but it's.
I didn't know there were any in Chicago.
There are, but it's a different kind of a thing, because now you're talking about building strong relationships with people that are very easy to find, very easy to know. Their addresses don't change very often, and so on. So I don't know if that quite answers the question, but it is a little bit of a different perspective.
I think, too, there's media in every city in the country. There's some local community paper even in the smallest of communities. So in Phoenix has a couple of papers, plus TV, plus radio, plus online is everywhere. I think that if you can get them to do something on, media loves a local tie, okay? So if you're shooting in Phoenix, they're going to love that, because most productions are not in Phoenix. So get a release, get some information to them about you, about what you're starring in and what the project is and all of that, whether it's a press release, a press packet, whatever. Go online, figure out who the entertainment reporter is for that local paper or for that website or whatever is based there in Arizona, and send them the information. They may bring a camera crew on down or send a photographer to the set. Of course, you'd have to get that approved by production, but or you can meet with them for one-on-one. A lot of times they just do them over the phone. But if you're local, that's a local tie. And then typically they put those on their website as well. So it gets posted on, the Arizona Republic and the ArizonaRepublic.com. So then it's online, and anybody can Google search your name or whatever, and it's going to start to appear and pop up as one of those things. So when people casting or whoever in LA are searching you out because you've sent a, audition on tape from Phoenix or whatever you're doing, they may Google search you, and there it is. Or on your website, you start to post anything that gets published about you, so that you've got your press, you have a page of press on your own site, and that's where you post all those. So then that's using it doesn't matter what community you're in. In fact, it's probably easier in Arizona to get coverage than in LA. I know it is, actually.
Now, for out-of-town actors, is there any benefit to marketing to LA casting directors for someone?
Yeah, if you're willing to travel, I think, yeah. And we start talking about local markets, because, we've said this over and over all night. It's about building relationships with people and meeting them face-to-face and working with them. And if you can build relationships in your hometown and work with them and get press and build a resume, that's all great fuel that you can use in LA or New York. And certainly the beauty of the internet is that it's everywhere. So if you're in another town, you can have a profile on one of these sites, on Actors Access, and your resume and your headshot. And it's there for New York and LA casting directors to look over. You could log into CastingAbout and look at what people are casting in LA and know that ahead of time. And know these are the people that I'm going to want to meet. Now, the truth is, the hard part is, a lot of it happens here and now. You can market like crazy, and they want to meet you, and they may call you and say, okay, I want to meet you. Come now. Come this afternoon. I want to meet you, and it's kind of tough to hear, but casting directors are dealing with so many actors, so many actors in LA, and a lot of times they have limited amount of time. So they may say, okay, I've got 3 hours, I can see an actor every 15 minutes, do the math, that's how many actors, and that's all I have time for, so get here now. It used to be when I was in New York, a lot of actors I knew would say, well, I want to go to LA for pilot season. I want to be there for pilot season and then go. And I sort of toyed around with it a little bit and actually had a meeting with a casting director from LA who was in New York. And they said, the truth is, if I find out that you just came into town for pilot season and you're going to go away, that's tough. I need to know that you're in town and you're going to be here, because if I'm building this relationship with you, maybe I'm not going to call you now, but I want you to be available 3 weeks from now. So it is about getting to know the people where you are. And I think it's great. If you're out of town and you want to do research about what's going on in the bigger markets, absolutely do that research so that when you come here, you're armed and ready to go.
And I think similarly, doing the research to find out what is shooting in your area, because a local hire is someone, a lot of times big movies will cast their leads out of LA or New York, but shoot in, New Mexico or whatever. And the local hire is someone who's hired right out there, and they're usually smaller roles, but hey, then you're in a film. And is that the kind of information that you can find, say, on CastingAbout? I mean,
it's not the kind of information you can find on CastingAbout. We track at this time Los Angeles and New York. So if it's casting out of Los Angeles or if it's casting out of New York, there's been...
And if it's casting there, if it shoots somewhere else, we'll still cover it.
Sure,
but it has to be casting in one of those two towns.
Back in the day, back when I was a young man, I worked for the Film Commission in Minnesota. And in many cases, in those smaller markets, you can find out what... I know in Vancouver, they publish on the Vancouver Film Commission website, they publish a list of all the productions that are going on. Many of the local film commissions do that automatically, and so in your market you may be able to find that information very easily. Now that you've got that information, it comes back to what Stephen was talking about. These are the people that you need to find a way to meet. You need to find a way to get an introduction for them. You need to make sure that you're in front of them, and that's going to depend, on what market you're in and how you can do that.
Can I make, because there's a constant theme here, and what I think may end up happening is people go, well, is it easy to get a meeting, or if I do, I wouldn't know what to say, or I hear this a lot with people talking about agents going, well, I'll get to an agent when I have more credits, or, there's this tendency to want to wait until X, and you don't know what X is. So I'm a big proponent of three things. One, take meetings early and often. Take meetings early and often with people long before you're ready. But two, go to it with the humility to know you're not ready. Don't go to them looking for a job. If I get introduced to somebody at a really high level and I was in your position, if I got introduced to the exact agent I wanted at CAA or a casting agent, I would have the tendency to go in and not only thank them for taking the time, but say, I really just want to learn, what would somebody like me to do at this stage of my career? What would I need to do to maybe one day get to be represented by you? What would I do to maybe one day get casted? What are the top 3 things you're looking for? Use the opportunity to interview that person to find out what's important to them, and then go get better instead of just pushing yourself on, because there's a million people out there pushing. And then the third question that I'd highly encourage all of you to ask, and it's one that people are afraid to ask, but I'd ask them, what are you working on right now that if I run across something might help you? And our tendency is we don't have enough self-worth. We go, oh, well, we're meeting with so-and-so. Oh, my God, what could I ever offer them? Well, you don't know till you ask. And I taught somebody this, and the guy was actually at casting. He goes, well, we're doing something in Shreveport, Louisiana. Have you ever been there? And the girl's like, well, yeah, I grew up there. What do you need? So just asking the premise of if there's anything I can do, but what it does is it keeps the door open for you. If you know what that person's looking for or need, then you can say, hey, is it all right if I run across somebody, can I send them to you? And then it's not about you. You're actually worried about what the other person's doing and trying to help but you've got an open door for somebody else. So this concept of taking a meeting isn't about you as much as it is about opening the door for a further relationship. But asking those questions really separates yourself from other people.
I think that's actually a fantastic attitude to bring into going we were talking about earlier, the casting director workshops, agent workshops, where I think, unfortunately, a lot of people go into those workshops thinking, I'm doing this to get an audition. I'm doing this to get an agent. When maybe it would be most effective to see that meeting and getting in front of those people as setting the stage for something, a relationship down the line, as opposed to jumping straight into it. So another question from Michael Gabriel. He's got a question about kind of going back to the chameleon idea that we were talking about earlier. He has long hair at the moment, but we'll cut it for the right part. He also has pierced ears and wears a large plug earring. If he removes the earring, he has an entirely different look. So his question is, what do you do for a headshot? Is it okay to have a large photo on the front and maybe 2 or 3 smaller ones on the reverse side to show how I look? Very preppy with short hair and no earrings, and very hip with long hair and with the earrings. Which I think is, this goes to something which is very specific. I know that for commercials, they often want very specific types, and sometimes simply by removing a piercing or covering up a tattoo or doing very extreme makeup, an actor can really dramatically change their type. What would you guys recommend for an actor who has that type of flexibility? How do you market something like that?
Well, going back to the idea of selling a product. Well, first of all, this is, and it sounds like Michael has a pretty good idea of his own type, his own image. I mean, he specifically says, preppy one way, and very, very different another, very hip. So already there's adjectives here that suggest a certain type. And if Michael is really true to himself and he knows that I can pass on, put on the polo shirt and the khakis and I am all like, suburban dad preppy, or I can be club hip and people have said, oh my God, if that's really true, and then you have headshots that represent those, then I think that's great. If you can market yourself as, a product that will do these types and do them well, and that is who you are, really, in both ways, then that's great. I think it's a tough road to walk because I think, we've all seen there are actors out there who have, online profiles with 15 pictures. And other than maybe the color of their shirt, they're pretty much all the same. We've seen that. And that's something you don't want to do. So this can be tricky because the product's ourselves, and we all have sort of, it's us. We have warped images of ourselves. We can't help it. And this is where having a team in place, having a manager, having an agent, having a PR person who can help you it can be really beneficial. But, having 2 different headshots that represent 2 different types, I think is absolutely legitimate.
Excellent. Tammy, now, how do you feel as far as PR or managing an image? Do you feel like that muddies the...
I think the media is forgiving for whatever. I mean, they want to see you look different and have 2 different shots and not know it's you. Oh my God, look at he transformed himself. I think for casting it might be, again, if you can really do it and really pull it off cleanly and well, then brilliant. I think the media, they could care less how many. They want to see you in 20 different looks. It's less important.
Okay, and let me just throw in that, I mean, it's a really tough thing to do because, dressing up and wearing long hair, dressing differently is different than being the actual type. I could have a long hair wig and flannel and put a fake piercing in it, and I'm still not hip. There's just nothing I can do about that. I know that. I can't. There are certain roles that it's just not coming across that way, no matter what I wear, and I know that, and that's okay. So I learned, you need a lawyer, I'm your man, but you need a lumberjack, probably not me. But this is a tough thing to do because there are actors out there who want to be seen in different ways. So I've seen the headshot where he's wearing the cop uniform and he's wearing the white lab coat with the stethoscope, or he's wearing the fireman's hat, and I've seen actors with those headshots. It's where I'm going here. It's a fine line. There is just dressing up, and then there's knowing your type. And if Michael here, if he can go out and he really is that club guy, I mean, in his core, and he can sell that story. Let's not forget what we're doing here. We're storytellers, right? And we are selling a story, and a story goes beyond a look. It's a lifestyle, it's an attitude, it's a point of view. And if that is yours, if you can sell that, if you can tell that story, then market yourself that way. But don't dress up to try and pretend like you can. So, and that's a tough thing to do. So be careful as you do those kind of things. But man, if you can tell those 2 different stories, 2 different points of view of the world, then those should be marketed separately. Absolutely.
I think that's a really interesting point. Somebody else asked a very similar question. How do you feel about typecasting, and how should I market myself based on what the casting people are saying? Yet stay true to who I believe I am as an actor. And I think that goes very, very strongly with what you're saying. I know that I personally, when I first started out here as an actor, I took myself very seriously and wanted to be very dramatic and do really dark, gritty things. But if you look at me, I mean, I don't. That's not my type. And as soon as I, took the pill and started playing the cheerleader roles, I started booking. So I think that it's maybe not my first choice, but I think that what you're saying, Blair, is like know your product and know what you're selling, and if Michael can be that club guy and people buy it, then people will most likely.
We're talking about a journey here. We're talking about a career. I mean, part of marketing, the point of marketing is to build a long-term career. So, at the beginning, we're here, like we said before, to serve the story. So, if a producer needs you to be a cheerleader, that's your job right now. Be a cheerleader and build that career. Now, we all hope we get to the point where eventually we've got 10 scripts sitting on our desks, and we can choose which script and which story we want to tell. But in order to get there, we need to work with the storytellers who are going to buy us to fill specific spots. And there's some wiggle room in there, and you can stretch yourself, but I think accepting that at the beginning kind of makes that journey a little bit easier.
And now this is actually a question going back to our new media discussion. What about YouTube? What's the best way to use YouTube as an actor? Anyone?
Do you want to talk about it from a PR perspective?
Well, I think it helps your IMDb rating.
What do you mean by that? Do you mean like?
I mean every clip or every time you update your own website and everything, that's what goes into calculating your IMDb rating, and that seems to be a big deal in marketing and in PR. Everybody always asks me, how can I get that lowered? How can I be number 200? Which, wow, when we all like to be number 200.
What she's talking about is on IMDb. It's just on IMDb Pro, right? Where you can see the number. There's something called your star meter, which goes up and down.
And it really has nothing to do with the projects.
No.
It has to do with your hits online. But it seems that a lot of studios, a lot of casting pay attention to that number. So I think that the more projects that you can do well, that show what you can do, that you can post on YouTube or other sites or get them on, Funny or Die or things like that, even better, then I think that all helps in that way. It just puts more product that you've done out there. But be sure that you're doing stuff that shows what you really can do as an actor and a performer, and stuff that you're proud to put out there, not just you and your buddy drunk on Friday night.
Stephen?
And if you use YouTube or not is fine, but do all of yourselves a service and search your name and see what comes up. Because the worst thing you want to do is put content out there and have a lot of other things that come up with your name that's not representative. Because if you're not the first 2 or 3 or 4 video, third or fourth or fifth video, they're not going to find you. So you can use these things as tools, but be very, very cautious of what that public result is when somebody searches your name in these different sites. Because if there's content up that's not representative of what you want it to be, then you've got 2 issues. 1, they're not going to find you, and 2, they're going to find the wrong you, which is sometimes equally as damaging. So use the tools, but just go search and see what's out there around your name.
I just wanted to make 2 points. One of them is, if you're going to be talking about YouTube, the first thing is you've got to have good material. So that means you've got to be out doing some good work. And then the second thing, just because it's an area of interest for, I think, a lot of people, is remember copyright matters. And so if you don't own the copyright to the material that you happen to have video for, don't put it on YouTube. And just be aware of that. At some point, you don't want to find yourself on the other side of that equation where somebody has taken your stuff and put it up there as well. But I think the more important thing about YouTube is if you've got great stuff that you own the rights to, that you can, in fact, put up on YouTube, it may, in fact, be another way that people can notice you.
It's not hard to find stories about people who have been discovered through projects they put on YouTube. And actually, a lot of the bigger agencies here in town have people whose job it is to basically surf YouTube and Funny or Die. And I mean, that's their job, is to go out looking for the next big thing. And it does happen. I mean, and people win the lottery too. But it does happen. So, if you have a project you believe in, YouTube can be a great distribution channel. And sometimes it doesn't have to be the most direct. I worked on a project that started with Strike TV. The WGA created an online network to do projects during the strike. And I worked on a project that started on Strike TV, but then ended up on YouTube as well because the producers behind it wanted as much distribution as possible, and it gained a following on YouTube because of that. And then YouTube, they use that to drive traffic back to Strike TV. And as people do more and more of these webisodes, you can have it on its original website, but then also mirror it on YouTube, and that can absolutely be a great way for people to find you.
It goes back to what we were saying earlier about always having a next project. YouTube, and I think that's a great way for actors to take it into their own hands to have a next project lined up. And I just wanted to go back really quick to IMDb as far as just from my own personal experience. I was shocked and horrified when I went into an audition for a TV show, and instead of my headshot and resume, they had just printed my IMDb page, which was blank at the time. But there's nothing I could do about the fact that my credits weren't on IMDb because I had no credits to list. But one of the things you can do on IMDb, I think it's free, I'm not sure, I think you can post one picture for free, but if you do whatever you can for free, and then if there's an upgrade to do something called IMDb Resume, you can post pictures on IMDb, and I think personally, as an actor, my personal experience, it's really important to at least have one picture on IMDb, and if you don't have a lot of credits, get your resume up there, and then just wait for the credits to come in. The other thing, too, is be on top of your credits on IMDb. You can't always rely on the production to list them. My manager will go in and they will call IMDb and get on their case about getting those credits. If you don't have an agent or manager, make sure that you're sending emails or trying to get through to IMDb. They can be famously difficult to deal with. But it is becoming this tool where I think it's an industry standard. So it's one of those areas, I think, where you need to make sure that as much as you can, make sure your information is current and up to date on that. And just while I'm thinking about it, too, it's something that I just found out. Now casting, apparently, it was something that I kind of, once I got represented, had kind of given up on because I stopped submitting myself through Now Casting. But I just found out that a lot of casting directors, theatrical casting directors, actually use Now Casting to send your audition tapes to producers or to executives. And what shows up on there is your profile and your resume if you have it listed and your headshots. So I didn't know that, and I think that it was a good lesson for me to remember to always keep everything updated as much as you possibly can. LA Casting, Casting Frontier, Now Casting, Actors Access, anything that any casting director might use, because they don't all use the same one. You never know when it's going to be what casting has when you walk into the room for an audition.
Now casting is free as well now.
I'm sorry?
Now casting is free.
Now casting, yeah, Now Casting is free. And I know that Actors Access also is it's free to put up your profile, and at least a little bit of a resume, some important tips. Okay, so then to get back to questions, I'm sorry, Susan Margolis had a question for Tammy. Is it a good idea to give someone a bio of you along with your headshot and resume in an audition? I guess, and I think the bigger question there is, what is a bio for? How do you effectively use that as an actor as opposed to just your regular standard headshot resume?
I hadn't heard of it being used in an audition, so try it and find out. Typically, the way I use a bio is when I send out a press release and I have interest from someone in the media who wants to do an interview, I need to send them more details than about you. It's just really smart to have, again, going back to having it tell your story, having them learn something that they couldn't have gotten off of your website or you're just watching your reel or your resume or from my press release. However, I do include typically in a press release, like one of the last paragraphs is a little tiny mini bio. It's a miniature version of your bio on there just so that they can kind of get familiar with who you are or what your credits or your background or your history is. I like to also include your bio in presentation kits to send out if we are trying to get you better representation or get you into a meeting to try to meet somebody. It's part of that whole kit because, again, people like to hire and work with and take meetings with people that they think they're going to get along with and that they're going to like and that they think are fascinating. You never know when somebody's going to read on there and realize, oh, you are a trapeze artist. Wow, I've always wanted to do that. You laugh, but it's on there. You know, work that into your bio because that's something that wouldn't be typically on your resume unless it's in maybe special skills. But if you're not expert at it, don't put it on special skills. But it could go in your bio that's like a hobby that you've started doing on the weekends, and it's really, you know, you're doing it for just to stay in shape. It looks really hard, so I'm guessing that's what you can do with that. But I mean, those are the kinds of things that catches people's interest and just makes you a person and makes you interesting. And so a reporter or somebody in a meeting might go, God, they're wacky and weird, and they seem to take, you know, they seem to be daring. So let's call them in, or let's see what they can do. I mean, you just never know what they're going to find fascinating. So don't just use your bio to, again, recite what projects you've been in. Use it to tell your story of who you are, what your interests are, and what you do. If you wanted to include you have children and because you're proud of your kids or whatever, that's your family oriented, and those are the types of roles that you get cast in a lot, is the nurturing mom or those kinds of things. That leads into and ties back into what you do as an actor in your whole career.
And by the way, the bit about making sure that whatever you put on your bio or your special skills is accurate and you really are an expert at it, it's really good advice. I took a meeting with a manager once who saw unicycle riding at the bottom of my resume and said, really? Went to the closet, pulled out a unicycle and said, prove it. And I did, yeah, I could. Although it was in her living room on carpet, it was very difficult, but I pulled it off enough that she believed me. But it's true, you can get nailed on that stuff, so, you know, watch what you say.
Another really interesting question, actually, this is also for Tammy, as far as what to use to market yourself when you know you have something to market. Somebody, I think this is online, recently I was working background on a new feature film and was fortunate enough to be included in a publicity photo with 2 high-profile stars. Even though I'm not featured in this photo, I'm partially visible behind them. Is there, no, I know, but is there some way that I can use this photo to promote myself?
Depending on where you live, your hometown newspaper. You know, you just were in some big film, you're sort of seen kind of in a picture with them, which it sounds like you have, so maybe you can use that and they can print that. And remember, too, your newspapers, again, sometimes they have separate reporters that handle the online content. So you could go to 2 sets, find out if there's a different editor for each one. You can also submit to either one of those. But I think that's a great place to start. You can also, though, that's the kind of thing you would post on Facebook. You know, I mean, that's how you can use that picture to help get it out there. Or if you have casting directors' emails, because some do give them out now, you send that. You can use that to say, hey, I was there, and attach that picture or embed that picture in it. So there are a few ways that you could do that. It would be better if you had a line. But
and it's something to watch out for, because actually in an interview with a casting director, they told us a story. I mean, talk about building relationships and not building bad impressions. You know, they had a meeting with an actor who talked about being in a film that they had done background work with and said, oh, this is great. I just finished this great role in the film. Really terrific. And the casting director said, really? Because I cast that film, and I don't remember casting you, because background, you know, works different. So, you know, be careful and represent yourself truly, because
I'm not saying lie.
No, I know you're not. No, you're not. No, I'm specifically addressing the question, which is, you know, if I think the hometown newspaper and I was in the film and I was part of that experience, that's great. Then there's the line about, you know, I acted in the, or I worked in the film, I had a big role, or, you know, be careful about that.
You might even approach your hometown newspaper, and this is an idea I just had, you might approach your hometown newspaper about, can you write a first-hand account of what it was like working on that set? And you've got that photo. You never know, because especially these days, and you know, the media, like every other business, are cutting back on reporters, and sometimes the entertainment reporters are often some of the first to be cut because they see it as fluff. So if you can, you know, offer, especially smaller community papers, they might love to have a first-hand account of what it was like working on that project. So that's just one idea.
And being on set and learning about what it's like to be on set is valuable experience. Even if you didn't have a line, it's part of the training. And if you're honest about that, working on a set and learning and part of that training process, if you're just starting out, that's great experience that you can talk about in meetings when you meet with people.
Again, I think my mind works oddly, because I love Tammy's comment, but what I would, if I was going to do that, then if I had the reporter that was writing it, the first thing my mind went to was, wow, could I go back to the two actors I was sort of standing behind and tell them I'm going to get covered and see if I could somehow weave them into the story or see if they'd be an interest. And all of a sudden you've got a direct relationship to the actors who you were standing behind, but if you got them involved or they somehow helped you, you're taking that relationship a step further. It helps the reporter, it helps you.
You might be able to approach the production and just ask if you can submit via email, especially if they're still in production, a quote. Can I just get a quote about the project from them? I'm working on this. I was an extra in this. Or approach their people, whoever, their agent or whatever. Say, can I email in a question? And that would be a great way then to then get a quote for your article, which is just one more thing then that would make your hometown newspapers like hair stand on edge.
Thanks, you guys. We actually have to wrap it up now, but if I could just ask for any final words of advice, words of wisdom that you guys have. Blair.
Well, I think the theme that we've touched on all night long is remember that this is a business. It's about building relationships, that you're a pro in this town. You're a freelance professional, and your job, your goal is to build relationships with other freelance professionals. And when you look at it that way, your marketing becomes more specific. It becomes targeted. Which is going to give you a lot better return than, these huge mass mailings to people you don't know, which we've always said is like driving down the 405 and throwing postcards out the window and hoping they land on somebody's windshield, which actually might happen in this town. But
I tried it. It didn't work.
But being able to walk into a room and even change the air in an audition room by knowing that you're a professional, you know what they're working on, you know what they do, you've learned about them, you want them to learn about you. I hope we can work together now, but if not, in the future. And you concentrate on building those long-term things with people who are going to need your services, then you're setting yourself up for a career. And that's what we're all here for. It's not about just booking that next job. It's really doing the legwork to establish that long-term career. It's a lot of work, but ultimately really worth it too.
Brian?
Well, I just want to say, those of you who are watching on the internet, you probably can't tell, but these guys in the front row have got some really awesome comfy seats. And I tell you, if I ever do this again, I'm not sitting up here. I'm going to get in early. I'm going to sit down here in this front row. But all you guys stayed awake through the whole thing, and that was really awesome. Thanks everybody for coming. There's a million questions. This is a hard business, and for every time somebody says do this, this, and this, and you'll have success, then there's always another story about somebody who did the exact opposite and they had success. And sometimes you have to, learn what other people have done and either follow that trail or sometimes say, okay, for specific reasons, I'm going to do things a little bit different. And we sit up here and we tell you, oh, this is what's going to work, or here's what you should do. That's what we're here for. But take charge of your career. Make choices that make sense for you, even if I told you to do it a whole different way, because ultimately you've got to own that for yourself.
Tammy?
I think just be proactive. Think about, more often than not, a lot of people also, a lot of actors that I've worked with think to themselves, oh, yeah, I only had one line in that. That's probably just not enough. And I always tell people, you're never going to know unless you go out there with it and put it out there to the media to see if it's enough to get you anything or to have a blurb or anything like that. So be proactive. Shoot me an email and tell me what you've got going on, and I'll tell you what my thoughts are. I'm always willing to tell people, what I think you could do or give it or ideas that I have. So just be proactive, and you are enough.
Stephen?
Probably the same theme. It's really about treating it like a business and being proactive about who you want, what you're good at, what you want your career to be like, and really trying to find a way to add value, not only in what you do, in what you bring to the table, but what you can do to help others. Because if you can learn how to help others, they're ultimately going to help you. And really trying to approach things in a standpoint of who do I want to meet, how can I meet them, and what value can I add, will separate you from the majority of people who are hoping things happen.
That's a great point. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks very much, everybody.
One quick last order of business, the raffle that we have to, we get to give prizes. Our online winners are Lily Richardson and Nicole Butler. Simon will be in touch with you guys via email to get you your free subscription to CastingAbout. And our winners in-house tonight are, take a look at your blue ticket. I'm going to read the numbers. Blue ticket. Everyone got their blue ticket? Oh my gosh. All right. First one is 773231. Did you stay? Yeah. All right. Stick around, and we will get that to you. And then the next one is 773221. Yes? All right. So you guys, before you leave, come stop by, and we'll get you all set up. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thanks again to our panel. They were awesome.